You're listening to Reignite, a podcast where mistakes were made. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And joining us for this episode is Sam Perez.
Hello.
Hey, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we talk to Sam and get into the Mass Effect of it all, which y'all come here for, since the last episode, they officially announced the release date for the Legendary Edition. It is coming out on May 15th, and we are very excited. And if for a second that you thought myself and MJ didn't buy the Legendary Cache, then you have not been listening to this podcast.
I totally broke. I waited until the very last day, and I was just like, no, I have to have it.
Yeah, I bought it the morning they announced it and released it. I went up to my spouse to talk to her, and she pretty much, like, before I finished talking about it, was like, buy it. I know you want it. This is your favorite game franchise pretty much ever. Just buy it. And so I did, and talked to MJ about it, who was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. Me and John talked about it. I'm not sure. And then, like, a few days ago, it was like, I did it, which was very funny. Sam, I assume you are also very excited about the Legendary Edition.
Yeah. When I first got to know your show a little bit, started listening, part of me was like, I should finally do a replay. It's been a real long time. But then, like, the rumors were just starting to circulate about, like, oh, this might actually be coming. So I was like, I should wait. And now that it's, I didn't think I was going to be that excited about it, but now that there's a trailer and details, I'm like, okay, yep, I want to do this. I'm ready to go.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, Sam. I feel like a lot of folks that I know who like Mass Effect were kind of like, they're either the kinds of folks like we are that are super insanely passionate about it and like want to talk about it all the time, or on the other end, like it's been a while and they haven't really played it, but now they're getting excited again because the release is official. I'm still trying to figure out what MJ and I can do in regards to the Legendary Edition, because we're not going to redo all 3 seasons again. Definitely not happening. But I think doing an episode about the Legendary Edition might be a good idea,
right.
Or like doing like a roundtable discussion about it, like maybe 5 months after it's come out or 4 months after it's come out, to like talk about how we feel about it now that it's out. We'll see. Needless to say, loyal listeners, you can expect some kind of Legendary Edition content around or after the release of it.
Here are things that I know definitively. 1, I am requesting the day off.
Yes.
2,
obviously.
John and I are going to take turns.
Obviously.
Alternating days. And 3, I will definitely have finished at least one N7 sweater by the time it comes out.
Excellent. If I could be gaming wearing my SR2 hat in an N7 sweater on my couch, I feel like it'll be pretty precious. I'll be like the Mr. Rogers of the Normandy. Yeah. Anyway, getting back to the task at hand, Sam, I'm so excited to have you here. Sam, if the voice sounds familiar, Sam did a side quest episode about Borderlands for me, which was amazing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll talk a little bit about your Mass Effect experience.
All right. So I don't have a lot of ongoing online creative presence, but by day, I'm currently an actuary. I do statistics for insurance companies. My background's in math and computer science. I've worked at the National Institutes of Health for a little bit, and then jumped over to private industry doing data stuff there. So, like, professionally, that's what I do in my downtime. I'm into all kinds of different nerd stuff. Play games. Been doing a lot of tabletop RPGs lately. I am really hurting for the loss of conventions, because this was in February there was a convention we usually go to, and that marked a full year of canceled conventions for me, and I was way more bummed that weekend than I thought I was going to be about it.
That's fair.
But I miss them, because me and a friend had just started doing panels and stuff, and so I was in a new era of convention going for me, and then it all ground to a halt. So now I'm enjoying doing podcasts, because it's at least a little similar. I need to nerd out publicly about stuff with people, so I'm enjoying that.
Well, excellent. Well, yeah, I think we've all kind of hit that stride of, like, I had a realization with some friends that I've been talking to for a year on Discord that we first met a year ago at PAX East, which was a year ago, which, like, I'm still not quite over that time frame. But on to more positive things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you discovered Mass Effect and how you got into the franchise?
Yeah, so Mass Effect, it's had an interesting it had an interesting place in my life when it was coming out, because I played the first one early on in college, and it was an interesting time because I just graduated high school. I was attending a very small conservative Christian Bible college. I said I had a background in math, computer science. I spent 2 years thinking I was going to be a preacher, and did that for a couple of years. It was a very, like I said, small conservative college. We were not actually allowed to have TVs in the room, but the computer monitor was allowed, and so I had this little dinky CRT monitor and an Xbox 360 hooked up to it, and I got the first Mass Effect during that period because it was it was relatively, like, it was newish and people were talking about it, and it was a cool thing to try, and it just I kind of kept up with the series, as it came out from there. So, I had it early in college, and then played those through that, and then Mass Effect 3 I got right when I moved to DC, and so I had just moved, to DC, was away from family, and so, like, I also have memories of Mass Effect 3 on the little desk in the room I was renting, and so that's all. Mass Effect it was there for a lot of different, formative times, and it just kind of narratively had an interesting place because I was never really into, for all the nerdy stuff I do, I was never into a lot of science fiction for whatever reason. Just a lot didn't click with me. Like, I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan or Star Trek fan, or I didn't read a lot of like, like spaceship, laser gun sci-fi, and so this was like one of the, this kind of is my canonical sci-fi metaphors are in my head are mostly Mass Effect based because it was the one I got really into, and just given the time of my life it was in, and the friends I had who were all into it, like, it moments from it and like metaphors from it played into a lot of like surprisingly serious conversations that we had, and so it's had a kind of front and center place in, like, as like a I don't know, like a core mythology for me, in a way that I've always found. It's always been like a special story to me because of that.
That's amazing. It's funny. I've always said on the show, like, Mass Effect to me has the weight of a Star Wars or Star Trek from the video game side, but for someone to say that it was exactly that, like you are, is really cool. Like, because I am probably the oldest person on this podcast of most of our guests, and currently included. And so for me, like, I grew up with Star Wars, so I don't think it'll ever replace Star Wars for me. But it was absolutely a formative trilogy for me. And so it's really cool to hear that for you. It was exactly that. It was your Star Wars, effectively.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also just kind of fun because in the way that it, like I said, we were, I was in a very kind of cloistered sort of environment in college, and it was kind of just this. Sci-fi tends to have this kind of like, I don't know, like scientific, humanist, philosophical bent to it, and I think it, like, in a weird way, it was very good for me to have this during that time when I was, in this, tiny. It's like one of my friends who went to the same college. I like the way she described it. She said it's not a cult that it wants to be when it grows up, but and so, like, and just, like, as far as like this, like I said, the serious conversations, like, we were like, I remember like debating with friends, like, we were having conversations about some of the tenets we were taught, and like when we were talking, like, like young Earth creationism, like Mass Effect, like, metaphors came up in that conversation, and like ended up being a big part of it because, like, I don't know, this has informed how I think about science and humanity and, like, just kind of mythological narratives of people, and yeah, it's had a fascinating place in my just kind of mental space and identity space.
I really appreciate that, and also in the back of my head is a stupid joke that Mass Effect turned you away from God.
Not exactly, but it does have, like, it's not in the bottom of, like, reasons I'm not a young Earth creationist, so that's, it's something.
Mass Effect.
Probably not directly, but it gave me a bucket to carry some thoughts in, and that's it. It's kind of cool.
Excellent.
I just love the idea of thinking about Mass Effect as a mythology that we can cling to and that can give us comfort in difficult conversations and difficult times as we try to process things in our lives.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole sect of youngins who grow up playing Mass Effect now during a pandemic and attaching a lot of trauma as well as beliefs to it, for sure.
And they're probably going to think the Quarians make a lot more sense than we originally thought.
Social distancing before it was important.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, wearing suits and air filters at all time. That makes sense.
Oh, God. Anyway. So, we've all played Mass Effect, who knows how many times, but in your ideal playthrough, what choices do you prefer to make? Such as, do you lean Paragon, or do you take a Renegade lean sometimes?
Yeah, so I've always kind of considered my first playthrough is my canonical playthrough. I've done a bunch of not a bunch, but I've done experimental runs. But the first one, my first playthrough is kind of the one I consider the ones I considered my correct decisions. Like the Shepherd that was the most me did these, and so one thing that was interesting. Just as I was looking through, kind of the list of the big choices, because it's been a long time. I've played it, I've done 2 full runs and just kind of poked around here and there, but it's been a long time since I've done a formal, full sit through and played it. But it's just talking about the formative, place it stays in my head. I only had to look up 1 or 2 of these to before, because the rest of them was it was back when it first came out, when I first did this, but I remember most of these, what I did and why. So that was
excellent.
Yeah, so I played. I did mostly Paragon in kind of my canonical playthrough. I knew I was probably mechanically shooting myself in the foot, but I did Renegade if it felt cool, if it felt like a good idea. Yeah. And so mostly, so it's mostly Paragon. There's times I'm frustrated with what the game interprets as Paragon or Renegade. I don't think it's internally consistent with what it thinks it is. But most of my decisions are Paragon leaning. So just of kind of the list. I freed the Arachnite Queen. I had Kaidan survive on Vermeer. I feel like that's not actually. I think I was the only one of my friends that let Ashley die. So that stood out. That was always that made the conversations interesting. We had a few points where we had all kind of verged on decisions. So I did mostly Paragon. The council died on my playthrough. Mine was less of a. It was less of a screw the council, I don't like them, but more of a I don't know. I remember thinking in the moment, I'm sorry, this thing's gonna kill everybody.
Less petty, more tactical.
Yeah, it was more look, if we don't kill it because we diverted any forces to y'all, that was a mistake. So hope y'all can deal. And then they couldn't. But
it'd be like that.
Yeah. I remember Anderson. I picked Anderson just because he's a cool dude, and hey, it was a bro move to appoint Anderson.
I love that description. It was a bro move. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
He's your dad.
He is your dad.
So I say going there, now that I'm just listing all of them, my run was probably less Paragon than I thought it was because I did shoot Rex.
You did?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
These are back to back because I shot Rex and I killed the Geth, and so I was so I'm only I'm not.
Well, killing the Geth is more of a gray area where we can debate that one. But you killed Rex?
I did.
Intentionally?
Yeah, well, because also it was the first one, and I was kind of going in pretty blind to it, and so I was just kind of I don't know. They were seat of my pants decisions. And I kind of had just a code of all right, I'm going to roll with what happens.
Wow.
Interesting.
And so it wasn't like this. I was going to say, it's not this malicious, I killed Rex. It was more well, this was the consequence. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's I guess that would be, that's the Renegade side of things.
Reignite first.
Yeah. You're
all right.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because a lot of even though it was mostly Paragon with some of these big ones that I went Renegade on, I felt like there was at least some internal consistency to the choices. But I did my second playthrough and just purposely made all the opposite decisions it was a weird playthrough. Because, like, this game, like, the narrative seems less prepared for a mostly renegade shepherd who does these random nice things. And, like, there's custom dialogue for some of it that made me laugh, because if you, what was it? There was one where if you destroy the genophage research, but then try to help cure the genophage, Rex like has this talk with you. He's like, "What are you about, Shepard?" Like, he's like, "I don't understand you." And like, it amused me that dialogue exists, because the game's like, what's the ethos you're playing here? We don't get it.
Yeah, there's a similar situation where if during Garrus's mission in Mass Effect 1 with Dr. Hart, the Solarian doctor, if you encourage Garrus to kill him, but then try and stop Garrus from killing Sidonis, he says to you, like, that makes no sense. That goes against everything you've taught me.
Amazing.
That's yeah. It is. It was interesting to see how, like, the game, like, in my first run, the game didn't have, like, narratively, there didn't seem to be as much conflict in those decisions, at least for like how the dialogue is written to justify it. Because, like, they have like their big flowchart map and write the dialogue for all the different paths to get places. They didn't seem confused about any of the paths on my first playthrough, but like the opposite of that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you could tell because the dialogue is weird.
That's interesting. What happens with the collector base?
I believe I destroyed the collector base. That was one I had to look up. I was like, what was that? What was the consequences of that? I believe I destroyed that one, because for all the like tactical renegadeness, there was a little bit like, I don't like this Cerberus group. I'm gonna
fuck the elusive man.
It's like y'all don't need this.
It's unanimous that no matter what you play, fuck the elusive man. It's pretty much the consistent answer.
He's the worst.
I did set up when I worked at the National Institutes of Health. I was doing genetics like programming and like doing like data analytics on gene sequencing data. And I set up all my computers with like Cerberus colors because I thought that was funny.
That is pretty funny. What about your romances in Mass Effect 1 and leading into 2?
In 1, I romanced Liara. I think that's probably pretty basic, but it was, she's it was well written. I just like I said, followed my heart and that. And then I had to think for a little bit to even remember what I did in Mass Effect 2, and I it's funny because I remember that I romanced Miranda in 2, and I felt like a lot of the dialogue and story there was relatively forgettable because I didn't remember much of it, and I mainly remembered it because I remembered the Shadow Broker dialogue. If you romance Liara and then Miranda, there's like custom dialogue for it, and I remembered that because like of the entire Miranda romance, Liara being snarky with me was the thing I remembered the most, and I was like I felt defensive. I was like, "Whoa, hey," and like it was a weird like emotional spike from that moment. It's like, okay, so that's the one part of that whole story that stands out to me. So I guess that shows who my favorite is.
Yeah, I think Miranda unfortunately falls into the camp of Ashley as far as like a bland romance storyline, which is kind of a bummer because I feel like there's more to those characters, especially with Miranda's like story with her sister and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I feel like that there should be more depth to the romance because there's so much depth to her character, and yet. But I guess also, MJ, we kind of discovered that with Ashley too, though neither of us romanced her. Like, there's depth to her stuff in Mass Effect 1, but in 3 it's seeming like there's less. Like, it's more of an afterthought.
Yeah. Like, I have barely had a conversation with Ashley since she joined the crew, and I'm like, okay. That's fine. How's your sister? Can we talk about that maybe? It'd be like that.
That also it reminds me in my Renegade run, a moment that cracked me up was in 2 when you reunite with Ashley. I wish it was as easy to screenshot things during that era as it is now. Just because I have that image burned into my mind of Shepard going, "Cerberus hasn't changed me, Ash," as I'm wearing full Cerberus armor and my face is glowing with evil scars.
That's good. I like that.
It was a beautiful visual.
Nice.
That's great.
All right, shall we get into the summary?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Shepard meets with the Quarian Admiralty Board to discuss their attempt to reclaim their homeworld from the Geth. Unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as they thought it was going to be because, of course, Reapers. Fortunately, the Admiralty Board has a new member, Tali Zora Vas Normandy. That's it. That's the summary. You want to know why that's the summary? Because it fucked up. That's why.
Yeah, MJ is kind enough to undertake the massive amount of research it requires to make our episode map so we can break this show up the way we wanted to. We thought this was a full mission. Turns out this is just getting the Admiralty Board, and then the Geth Dreadnought is a separate mission, which we've separated. So this is what we've got. But that said, it does give us an opportunity to talk about the Quarians a little bit and the reunion with Tali. But before that, Sam, why did you choose this mission?
I liked the idea of doing a Quarian based one just because I like the Quarians are a very interesting race or an interesting story, and I like Tali a lot. Another example of how, I don't know, Mass Effect lives more rent free in my head than I thought it did. Like, I'm in a tabletop RPG and I've built this character, and then like 2 sessions in, I realized like, oh, I'm just playing Tali. and I hadn't thought about Mass Effect in a long time. I was like, oh, that's what this is. Because it's kind of goofy. It's a character I built that she is from a circus, traveling circus family, and they have to, when they come of age, they leave the circus and go discover what their show is, and then rejoin the circus with a new act. And a friend, when I played the character, a friend said, so she's like a Quarian, but if they were carnies. Like, yeah, basically.
Amazing.
I love it.
That is excellent.
I love them so
excellent.
much.
But yeah, I like the Quarians. I like Tali, and just being this, the reunion's a cool moment, and it seemed like it gave good opportunities to talk about those.
Yeah, I think Tali, like, it's no secret that my lizard son, Grunt, is my favorite character, but Tali is one of my favorites of the original characters from the first game. As much as I love Rex and Garrus, there's something about Tali's character that's really interesting to me, and that I feel like every time I play Mass Effect through again, I discover more stuff about her, because she's the kind of character like Kaden that you can miss a lot if you don't talk to her. She can seem pretty, like, standard, like you know her deal, and then like I found as I talk to her more, I find more and more. Also, she, like Garrus, is very awkward and uncomfortable if you flirt with her at all. And I don't think I've ever actually processed the romance with her in a playthrough. I might have, but not that I remember. So I think, and don't hold me to this, internet, but I think when the Legendary Edition comes out, if the creation options are as good as they're saying they are across the board, and I can make something that resembles more me than my current male Shep, I might play male Shep first, even though I stan Jennifer Hale. And if I do, I might romance Tali, because I'm curious to see that play out all the way through the third game. I know some of the issues with it, but like, I'm curious to explore that.
I have so many feelings about Tali. I get very emotional when she's doing anything that makes me proud of her. I'm just like, my precious friend, my precious bean, I love you so much. You're doing so much good in the world, and like, I'm so proud of you. I have a lot of feelings about her, and she should have been bi, and I should have been able to make her my girlfriend.
Totally. I don't disagree. I mean, I feel like there are very few characters on the roster of Mass Effect that shouldn't be some level of queer. I would say that Ashley seems like the token straight to me, so that's fine.
No!
No? Oh, someone disagrees.
Ashley's a lesbian.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess that makes sense.
BioWare has a problem where it looks at like these femme characters that they create and they're like, that's a straight woman. No, not at all. You think Miranda would deign to let a filthy, dirty man touch her? She's amazing. She deserves so much better than that.
That's fair.
Like, how dare you?
The fact that BioWare thinks Cassandra in Dragon Age is straight.
Come on!
Incomprehensible.
You looked at this haircut that you gave Cassandra and you were like, yep, straight woman. Nailed it. And it's just every femme character you create, BioWare, you always create either a lesbian or a bisexual, and you think that they're straight and you're wrong.
I wonder how many friends the designers have that are the designers like, hey, we based this character on you. And they're like,
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't wait for us to get to Andromeda because I have more opinions about this.
We'll get there. I do want to say, as we go from this into the queerness conversation into the check-ins, normally I would start with Joker because I actually really like his check-in, but I want to jump to the Steve Vega conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's very clear because so Vega and Steve are arguing about what's better, the Mako or the Hammerhead, mostly to just put the conversation of the actual players of the game in the game, like what we talked about with Conrad Werner. Like it's a meta moment, which is great. Like they're arguing about one's better than the other, like talking about it has no control and all this stuff. Literally, I think using comments from forums from players,
Right.
and it's really.
I have
good.
some quotes if it'll help.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Cortez, that thing handles like a drunk rhino. Vega, more like a bull that can climb and climb for days.
It's just like, and they argue back and forth, and then Steve eventually goes, well, if you really like a tank like that, you should just play, be piloting the Grizzly something or other. And Vega's like, I love Grizzlies.
You are not...
Am I misquoting a
A
little?
little bit. Vega says that he loves the tank, the Grizzly.
Oh, right, the tank, the Grizzly.
And that's
right, yeah.
when Cortez takes it to, yeah, you would love grizzly bears.
and Vega's like, yeah, wait, what? And then silence.
Like, did you just make a joke about bears?
So good. I love
I
it.
mean, I appreciate that you did, but I really don't think bears are Vega's type.
No, not at all.
If anything, otters. I don't think
it's
Vega
so
would be
good.
into bears.
But so yeah, that just seemed relevant to the queerness conversation we were just having. But I do want to talk about Joker's comments right away, because this is one of the most sincere moments we've had with Joker in the game, besides talking about his own like relationship pursuits, because when he talks about Samara and everything that went down with the Aragakshi, he's just kind of speaking from a place of pride and seems to respect Samara, because there's no joke about her sexuality, there's no joke about her looks or being a woman, or like, because Joker tends to be a jackass, but not here. He's completely sincere, and it was really lovely.
I completely agree, and I had a note about that as well. I was really surprised that he was so thoughtful about Samara and the way that she has struggled. And I think it could be, and like fully tell me if I'm out of line or if I'm wrong, that Joker maybe sees the Arayakshi as a parallel to his own disability.
I mean, it could be. I don't know that I see an example of that, but other than this moment, but I could see how you make that parallel to this moment, right?
Yeah,
like,
because they live their lives very secluded. They're not able to go about their lives like a quote normal person or a neurotypical person or a physically healthy person. And Joker has many of the same experiences. He can't perform basic tasks because if he like moves the wrong way, he can break his arm.
yeah.
So I feel like there's this level of like, no, I get it. And this is one of those things that I'm not going to make fun of because I might as well be making fun of myself and my own disability.
Yeah, I think also part of it is, again, I think Samara, as opposed to other characters, the way she carries herself, which we've talked about before, I feel like it's just very, Joker even makes fun of Jack, right? Like, he's not afraid of Jack, even though he knows Jack would destroy him. But Samara, there's something about making fun of her. I think he respects the Justicars in a way that he doesn't respect a lot of other people, for better or worse. I think it's just how he views them versus other people on the ship. And so that's definitely playing into it.
Also, I don't think it's possible to get a rise out of Samara.
No. And I think that's the point
Yeah.
for Joker, is like he wants to get a rise out of someone. If they're not going to laugh, then he's not going to bother. Like, he doesn't really say anything about Javik. After talking to Joker, however, when we shift to Edie is just playing Weather Girl at this point. like research. I mean, to be fair, it's more complicated than that. But she's researching dangerous storms that apparently, due to how communications are kind of garbled right now, might not be able to be notified and can do severe damage to some of the colonies. And so she's researching and reporting back and sending out notifications. And I love the characterization here of Edie as like someone who is still constantly trying to help. Like she's on this unshackled AI. She could do whatever she wants. And instead she's still trying to help humanity and try and help these colonies and help the Alliance on the whole, which I think is really awesome.
Well, she did reprogram herself to be good.
That's true. Because she asked and you said she should.
Trainer had a very funny line where she was talking about how the Asari are getting involved, and she said something to the effect of, it doesn't matter how pretty you are, you have to fight now, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and that she's like, yeah, that's how they got me, or something like that.
And I'm just like, you're oddly salty for someone who is drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, right.
Like, why are you so salty with the Asari? You were just as pretty as an Asari, if not more.
I think that's short-sighted male writing is probably the problem.
Probably.
There. Women can't exist if they're not jealous of other women's beauty, right?
True. Garrus and Javik are in the lounge teaching that same private about war again.
Yeah. And having a conversation about understanding the kind of damage that the Reapers have done in the past versus now, and then also talking to the private about how it's stupid to not respect your enemy, because respect is how you prepare and how you understand.
I really like this conversation because Garrus is also kind of giving Javik a nutshell view of what has happened in the universe since he's been ice, and like, we had the Rachni Wars, then we had the Krogan Uprising.
And then we had the Genophage.
And then we had the Genophage, and then we had this, and then we had that. And it's just like running through the list. And then Javik returns with like, yeah, we had this, and we had this, and we had this. And Garrus is like, so no matter what, nobody gets it together. Yeah. Everybody sucks all the time. And Javik tells, well, there was this one race that, believed in peace. And then this other race didn't. And wiped them out.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a pretty dark conversation, but I think it's an important one. And I think and like I said, like I love these moments where characters are in different places interacting with each other. Like they don't just turn on the minute Shepard walks in the room. I mean, they still kind of do. Like the minute you walk in the room, the conversation starts. But I still appreciate the dynamics of this conversation and the fact that we get to hear this perspective. Especially since Garrus is speaking from a place of like respecting what they're capable of and understanding them as an enemy. And I think, especially for someone who like Garrus, who's been portrayed as hot-headed and sometimes short-sighted to rush in, having this kind of forethought and strategy shows how he's grown as a character too. Especially since he was an important person in his military before he absconded with us again.
Yeah. Copeland keeps talking about how the Reapers are evil, and both Garrus and Javik are like, yes, and? Like, yeah, you're right, they are, but, like, this is why they're probably gonna win, because they have you freaking out like this. Because you're having a panic attack about the fact that banshees are a thing now.
Yeah, it is an interesting way to have the conversation also about the assimilation of these different races and stuff and how they become unique units in the Reaper's War. And that even though we're fighting waves and waves of grunts, they mean something to these races that are being absorbed, and that there's an understanding and a fear of that that comes up a couple of times after the mission where we first meet the Banshees, even though it's not the first time we met the Banshees because we had fought them in other missions.
Semantics. Also, we're reminded that this is not the first time the Reapers have done this. Javik talks about how literally every battle was a new nightmare for everyone fighting. The Reapers are a giant nightmare factory that never ends, is something that Garrus says. And it's true, they are. And that's their tactic, and, it's pretty effective.
Yeah, Garrus says at one point, like, you're taking two people out of the battle when they do this. The person that they've assimilated, and then the person whose best friend doesn't want to shoot the assimilated person.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's true. It's it's absolutely psychological as well as militaristic.
Did you have anything with Caden?
No, we had a brief conversation where he talked about how he didn't know the Ardok Yakshi were a thing, and if he did, he'd probably be dead. Not having much faith in himself to be able to get himself out of a situation if he were tracked by one. But that was it. It was mostly lightly conversational.
Ashley was just being nostalgic about her sisters. And again, this is a disservice to Ashley because we just had this very moving mission about the love of sisters and how Rila was able to push through the indoctrination in order to save Falair and to set off the bomb to destroy all of the Banshees. And all I get from Ashley is, I just wanted to reread some letters from my sister. She really needed me when she was a teenager. I'm like, okay, do you have more? Is there more to that story?
Anything else? Yeah.
And it sucks that if you're not romancing her, I guess she's not interesting for you. And women do not exist solely to be romanced.
Correct.
And Ashley deserves a little bit better. I deserve to be able to build a friendship with her. I chose to save her for a reason, and it was because of her loyalty and her devotion to her family. And how, there were these 3 young women out there in the universe who needed their big sister, and I don't get to have any conversations about this.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how it goes with Male Shepherd if you romance her, just because I don't know anybody who's followed through to the 3rd game with that. Most people don't.
Poor Ashley.
So, poor Ashley.
I was saying, God, that was a burn right there. You ever feel like you're the kind of person that no one follows through to game 3 with? I don't know.
And it's totally valid and understandable why nobody wants to pursue a storyline with Ashley in it, because her views are very reprehensible when you first interact with her. And
Right.
It's very easy to just be like, I don't want to talk to you because you're like that. But I feel that there is a payoff when you do talk to her because she does turn around. I don't know. I think they did our girl dirty.
Yeah, I mean, they dropped the ball with a lot of the human characters in this game, I feel like, in the game series, but we've talked about that.
It's telling that as far as kind of what writing effort goes into for these kind of side conversations, if you're writers on this game and you're thinking, all right, if you're walking around in this ship during this time, what interesting things would people be talking about? And you get stuff like, oh, they would be telling the new guy the history of the universe that he missed out on. They would be discussing the psychology of all the stuff we're going and shooting. And then, it seems like there's a footnote about this story about loneliness and family and, Ashley's story, and then that just not getting on the priority list of things that would be interesting to explore. I don't know. It's telling of writing priorities. And, part of it, it's a action sci-fi shooting game, and they put a lot of work into zombie banshees and stuff, but yeah, it is disappointing.
Yeah. Hey, did we go drinking with Mom?
I didn't.
You didn't?
Yeah, I said save her for later and we'll celebrate after we defeat the Reapers, knowing full well what that means.
Fuck no, we drink now.
So why don't you talk a little bit about what happens while you drink right now?
We drink now.
I was gonna say, I don't remember. Are there Paragon or Renegade points associated with that decision?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
okay.
I think you just get reputation points, which go either place.
Yeah.
Just because it strikes me as one of the kinds of decisions that I feel like they had in the early of the series. I think they had this idea that Paragon was supposed to be by the book and Renegade was supposed to be more Han Solo, and decisions like that are where they tend to drop the ball on, and they went with just, nah, Paragon's nice, Renegade's mean.
Yeah.
Because that decision reminds me of just when I was making character choices in my first playthrough that I wanted to that I thought was going to be Paragon. I remember an early one in it's when you get asked if it's when James tries to use a nickname with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I told him no, we're a ship. Call me commander, and that was a renegade choice. I'm like, that is the most by the book,
Yeah.
like lawful good decision, like possible. Of like, no, we have protocols, follow protocols. But then that was renegade because it was mean, I guess.
Yeah. I chose to drink with Mom. It hasn't been a year, but fuck it. We're in a war. Break out the good stuff, baby. And then she tells this story, and, well, it's about Joker saying to Jack, and he's like, Jacqueline, Miss Subject Zero. And apparently she, like, threatened his dick or something. I'm like,
Oh my
when
God.
did this happen? Where was I? Why were you all
You had to sleep
drinking
sometime.
without me? I am hurt, and I am offended. And then we have this conversation about how Shepard never calls Dr. Chocolate's Karen, and Karen never calls Commander Shepard by their first name, which, LOL, you can't. You're a
Right.
video game, you don't have that capability. And she says, using your first name just disrespects everyone you're fighting for, alive or gone. And I wrote... It doesn't, but okay. And then Shepard says, that makes no sense. So Shepard and I were on the same page.
That's good.
And I decided to have a nice toast with my mom, where I toasted to her and I called her Karen. And I just want to hug my mom.
Yeah.
And then she says,
Love Dr. Chocolate.
even a Krogan couldn't match you drink for drink. And I'm like, fuck yes.
You know it.
You put respect on that name. So it was a nice scene. It was very cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized after declining the drink, because I like my character.
You don't drink.
I've tried to play. I don't drink. But also, and so that was kind of the meta. Like, I know if I say no here, then I'll never have that drink with her because I don't drink and I know what's coming. But Shepard doesn't know that. But my logic is like Shepard's like, oh, we'll have it later. And then Shepard will figure out later how to get out of not drinking. Although I think I drank with her in the first game just because I wanted the cutscene. But I didn't this time.
I feel like I make a lot of drinking decisions in real life because I just want the cutscene.
Me too.
Mood.
Same
And I
hat.
still drank. Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Cut to Allers not doing the Ardat Yakchi story because she has a huge Asari fan base.
Yeah. That's... and Trainer calls her out on it, saying that it's pandering.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's interesting. Allers is an interesting character that's kind of an anomaly in the game. But yeah, this is kind of a nothing moment. Like, the conversation happens between the two of them. It's clear that the two of them get paired off if you don't have a relationship with either of them. I think the two of them, they might just be friends, but I think there's more to it than that.
Huh. I never thought about that. I like it.
Did you get the conversation with Gabby and Kenneth about Allers? Not about Allers, about Trainer?
No, not yet. I walked
Okay.
in and they weren't talking. And they wouldn't talk to me.
Okay. So when I was there, I guess we'll talk about it now because it's pretty brief. But it just continues to paint a character that I thought was funny in the first playthrough now is just a scumbag. Like, I just don't like Ken. I think he's gross.
It's true.
And like this time he's like, oh yeah, I think I'll go. I hear Trainers blah, blah, blah. I'll go talk to her. And, Gabby calls him out and is like, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. And he's like, oh, well, maybe you should go talk to her. And Gabby's like, doesn't he barely pays him any mind and just goes, well, nobody here is barking up my tree, which is continued proof that Gabby likes Ken for some reason.
Oh, maybe I have heard this conversation before.
And then Ken goes, oh, well, if you do follow through, make sure you take video. And I'm like, oh, Ken,
Gross.
You're so gross.
You don't deserve Gabby.
No, you don't.
Like, when it comes down to it and Gabby calls you out, I'm gonna support her, but you don't deserve her. She deserves so much better than you.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I'm gonna take Gabby out to the Citadel, and I'm gonna introduce her to some nice guys. I'm gonna hook her up with James.
There you go.
And then you're gonna
James
feel
will
like
go for
shit,
it.
Ken.
Yeah, so I had that, and we might have talked about that moment before, but I experienced it now, and I was like, bleh,
He's gross.
ugh, he's gross. But I think that's it for my check-ins beyond that on the ship.
My only other one was that Cortez worries about me, and I love him. He's a good friend.
He is a good friend.
Such a good friend.
So let's talk a little bit about going to the Far Rim and bringing on the Admiralty board. First of all, the first thing I have to say, which I brought this up when we played Mass Effect 2 also, I love Shorey Agdashlu, I believe is it, who plays Admiral Ron. I'm on a high horse with her because she's also a very important character in the Expanse TV show, which I love. And she's phenomenal in it. And so to get to hear her voice here, she's so good. Has such, like, I love her voice acting, and she's so great here. So I'm happy to be reunited with one of my second favorite Quarian, because of course my favorite Quarian is Tali. It's funny, when this moment was playing out where they board and talk about how they stupidly went to the war with the Geth, and they stupidly painted themselves into a corner, and now they stupidly need you to get them out of it. The 4 Quarians that are in the room, I'm looking at them and I'm going, but where's Tali the whole time? Because in a series of me not remembering how things go. And they play up to this moment. They're like, well, thankfully our 5th Admiral is here, and it's Tali. And I was just like, okay.
My girl!
Hi, Tali.
The Quarians are just up to their shit again. It fucks me
Yeah.
up whenever Admiral Zen talks because she's Morgan.
Yeah.
And just like whenever she talks, I'm just like, what game am I playing? What's happening? Especially since I am also replaying Dragon Age Origins at the same time.
That's another one that's been on my list for a little while. I haven't played Dragon Age in a long time.
Gotta do it. And like Zen is way too into her like, oh, killing Geth is not like actually killing Geth. It's like taking apart a toaster. I hate her. I hate her so much.
Yeah, it's awful.
She's so
she says,
fucking terrible.
deactivating them isn't murder, and like as Shepard you can go, yes it is,
still murder. I wrote down still murder, and Shepard said
Still murder.
yeah, it's murder. And I'm like, thank you, I'm glad we're on the same page. And then when they were like, we didn't mean to create artificial intelligence, it was an accident, I'm like, oh, so you just made a little oopsie. And you decided murder was the way to fix it.
Right. It's also like, I don't see how that's actually relevant to the discussion. It's like,
You guys
it's
are
like these
so
aren't living
dumb.
things. Like, well, we didn't mean to make living things. Like, okay.
There is a war with
and?
the Reapers going on, and you were like, this is a perfect time to retake Rannoch.
Yeah, like what could possibly
There are
go wrong?
hyper-intelligent machines invading the galaxy, and we can take Rannoch.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's and like Admiral Ron, of course, is continuing to play mediator. She doesn't really take a side. She's just trying to facilitate the discussion. And then
She's
I'm
the
trying to
Burr
remember,
of the group.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the other admiral who we've spoken to before, who is on the
Geralt
side
or
of
Chorus?
Chorus, who is like, kind of extreme to the other side and is very much like, we shouldn't have invaded. Everyone's in danger.
Mad about involving civilians?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd be pissed too. Why did you involve civilians?
Yeah, and then because there's conversations you can get into a little after walking around, and they reveal that like one of the ways they've adapted is they've put big dreadnought type guns on just all their ships, and
Which is apparently
like
a violation of a treaty.
Yeah.
right, and it's a I don't know, like I like the imagery of the moment is I like it, just I like the story there because like it's just a very like, there is this sense of like, why are civilian things we need to go rescue from your war zone? And then you did that, and it's just kind of a very you live by the sword, you die by the sword type of moment that I appreciated I don't know. I like the writing of all the Quarian stuff. That was a.
I agree. I just think they're
Like,
all
yeah.
fucking dumb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with all of you? Like, you're all idiots. I'm so angry at all of you. And like their whole problem is that the Reapers have upgraded the Geth to make them like more capable, so their invasion isn't going according to plan. And it's like, well,
It's like,
you
you
did
think?
decide to try and invade while the Reapers were present.
Yeah. How did you think this was gonna go?
Yeah, they won't help each other out, right? There's nothing they have in common that might make some solidarity happen here.
And I'm just like, y'all are lucky this has to do with the Reapers. Otherwise, I'd tell you to figure out your own shit.
Yeah. And like, yeah. And so you get the lowdown from them, and essentially they inform you that they've pinpoint the major problem that's pinning down the civilians to this one Geth dreadnought that you have to invade. And if you can get that Geth dreadnought off of them, one of them goes, we can escape and take them home. And the other one's like, or strike back. And you're like, what is wrong with you? The first answer was correct. We save them and then actually save them. We don't send them back in to fight. It is some of the most head desk politics in the whole game. And that's saying something considering, the Solarian Dalatros still exists. It's really astonishing. But this is very much in line with the kind of politics we saw when we were rescuing Tali from her own trial in the second game. It was a lot of the same kind of back and forth and like... some folks with forethought, most folks wanting to destroy the Geth at all costs, and where it's gotten them, which is nowhere good.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, I like like you said, it's very, in a lot of ways, it's very, like from a logistical perspective, it is very head desk of like, all right, this is a bad idea. But then it's just, I like the idea of like, what's the psychology of being a people that like, not only doesn't have like, like they're nomadic. There's a lot of writing about people who don't have home, but like just the idea of like you don't have a planet, like the psychology of that is cool to explore. And like while it is very like this is a silly stupid plan, what are you doing? There's also like some sympathy just with the idea of like, hey, we have a shot of like living on a planet like every living thing in the universe but us does. And just how, like, I'm just thinking, like, they're going to shoot their shot because, like, this might be the only time for the rest of history that this opportunity exists. And just kind of, like, gunning on, like, maybe the Reapers are distracted and the Geth are weak and maybe this is it. And so, I don't know. I like, it is ridiculous in some ways, but I remember really liking just the politics of a lot of the Quarian situations just because I find the psychology of the Quarian story really fascinating.
Sure, and like as someone who didn't think I'd be able to relate with the Quarians on any level, not just pandemic jokes aside, right. I was displaced from my home for over a month. I lived in a hotel and had no home. So the idea of urgently wanting a home, like, I get it. Like, Sarah and I, my spouse, are very lucky that we have the apartment we have now, while hopefully our apartment will eventually be repaired sometime soon. But like, when we were displaced in the hotel, we were homeless. Like we weren't on the street, but we were homeless. And so not having your whole planet, like I get it, but and everyone makes irrational and stupid decisions under pressure. Like no one's completely devoid of that. Right. So there is like a relatability that I didn't expect. It didn't hit as hard as some of the other stuff, like when we talked about the coup a few episodes back, but there's definitely some emotional connection now that I can see that I didn't see before. And like, it's driven home a little more when we have our chat with Tali in the war room. One of my favorite things about this conversation with Tali is that when you congratulate her and try to talk her up and be like, this is a great choice, she immediately does what all of us, I'm assuming on this call would go, nah, I suck.
I'm far too young to be an admiral. This is just a formality because I have so much Geth experience. And then Auntie Ron is like, shut up.
Yeah, she's like, you deserve this. You're the greatest. Shut the hell up.
You're great and I love you and I'm gonna bake you cookies.
That moment just was, because I didn't fully remember like a lot of the details from earlier, but just watching that again, it was a very relatable like imposter syndrome moment, because it's like I feel like most people feel like that with most things they're doing in their life. Like I feel like every step of my career I've been like, so when do I feel like I'm good at this?
Exactly. Like when do I feel like a professional?
Yeah, and then also like kind of just that the realization that like, oh, everyone feels like this, and then also just like, I don't know, once you're climbing the ranks of anything, you start realizing that like there are no superheroes, and I imagine the longer Tali stays in this position and gets involved with the petty squabbling politics of this, I recognize that early phase of imposter syndrome in her, and I like to think that she'll realize, oh no, these people are just as nuts and impulsive as I am, so I'm gonna actually make my voice heard, because I liked the kind of reluctant vibe she had of, okay, well, I do know something about this, and so I probably should try to make things better. And you could see the beginnings of a much more confident leader and decision maker there. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the whole conversations with her during this situation.
Yeah, I love her, and she's amazing. I'm so proud of her. And I'm so proud of her. I can't get over it. John and I were talking about the difference between romancing Tali and romancing Liara. Mm-hmm. And how Liara, while 108, gives off the air of being much younger. Like, she gives off the air of being basically an 18-year-old. And Tali is an 18-year-old, but she feels so much older, mature, and experienced. Mm-hmm. She's a person who absolutely knows who she is, even when she's on her pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And
you saved Tali, but Tali only sort of needed saving in the first game. Yeah. She was pretty in control.
Like, she had that grenade ready to go. All you really did was show her the path to the place she actually wanted to go. That's all you did.
Yeah, pretty much.
And, like, there's just something about someone who knows who they are that's very attractive. It's a confidence that even though they may not feel confident, you don't have to worry about them, like, trying to change themselves constantly. So I really appreciate that about Tali. She's been very consistent and she's grown a lot, whereas Liara became a more confident person, but she also became a very different person.
Yeah. Which also happens. Yeah. Right?
Like, it does.
You know, it's a different kind of character evolution. And that's one thing I'll speak to using Tali as the example, is that they find so many different ways to grow these characters. There's not a character that you serve with on a ship at one point that doesn't get some semblance of real growth, except for, to a degree, Caden and for sure Ashley. I feel like they are the only ones who are truly stunted, because even Miranda in this game, we didn't talk about the Citadel thing we did with her earlier, but like there are conversations you have with Miranda where you see a very different side of her, and they mostly do that really well. Probably not as good as they could, but pretty well. And Tali is, I think, one of the best examples of not lateral growth, but like a growth along a path that you expect for her, right? Like, none of us are surprised she became an admiral.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm sure she is, because like her father was an admiral and she didn't really expect to follow in his footsteps like that. But it makes sense. She is a person that can rally her people. She is a person who sees the Geth as more than a generations old enemy. She has compassion. She isn't afraid to fight for her beliefs. Like, there's just so many good things about her, and this is the future. This is the path that she deserves.
Yeah, totally. Before we go to our private convo with Tali, which shows a little bit of a different side of her, we should talk about the chat you can have with Admiral Ron as well in the war room.
Yeah, the chat with Admiral Ron is mostly info dump. The different kind of fleets and who helps them, how every Quarian ship is outfitted, which we talked about a little bit. The treaties that they violated in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I mostly could just listen to Shorey say anything forever. Like, she just has the best voice. And as Ron, I'm just like, yes, please talk to me. Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me about all the ships. What are the floor plans? How many bathrooms do they have, please? Tell me.
Are they better than our bathrooms?
Because our bathrooms are terrible. But yeah, you're right. It's mostly an information dump, which is good. It's important. Like, I don't feel like I needed it, and I skimmed through a lot of it. But like, for someone who maybe is coming to 3 without having played the other games, which is possible, or played with the digital comics, only made the major choices, like, it's a great way to share the information in a conversational manner, and you have one of the best actresses in the business doing it, so that's a plus.
Yeah. Well, and then it's a good, it's a good reminder of kind of the whole atmosphere of who they are and what they're doing, because like we talked about at the beginning, the fact that the civilian ships are there because the civilian ships have dreadnought cannons. Like, it's an important part of the atmosphere of the whole thing. And, like, when you have a nomadic race that lives on spaceships, how they organize their spaceships is a very important like cultural fact about these people, and so it's a good, it's a weird because it is like because they're the Quarians, it manages to be a codex like info dump about spaceships, but also like a character moment for the people and the whole culture that's involved in this mess.
Yeah. We also find out, like, which admiral is in charge of which fleet.
Yeah.
Chorus is in charge of the civilians, which is why he is very upset. I'm kind of salty with the Quarians. Because I'm like, I support your need to have a planet, but guys.
Could you have picked a worse time? Like, at least with the Krogan and the Turian, like, I get, like, the Turians were under attack. We literally had to help them to get them anywhere. I'm like, I get where the Krogans are coming from as far as the genophage is affecting them now. If they can't have children, they can't, like, they need to be able to have a future to want to fight in this fight. But, like, the Quarian did not, they had almost no reason to go to war right now with the Geth in this moment. Like, it could have waited. But maybe there's someone out there who would argue the opposite. Maybe there is someone who thinks, and if you're listening to this and you feel that you feel like you could speak to why the Quarians had to go to war now, please reply in comments or on social. Like, I want to hear it. But like from my perspective, it's like, this was a dumb idea. You put a lot of people in danger. What are you doing?
We also get mention of Tally's attempts for peace because of her relationship with Legion. Apparently, she and Legion interacted a bit.
They texted each other back and forth, sending messages, and like eventually he stopped replying, and Tally's not quite sure why.
Yeah, so
which is worrisome.
It is, and I don't think it would be like not wanting to give himself away to the enemy or anything like that.
No,
or themselves.
I don't think so either. We do get to dig a little deeper, though. We can call Tally up to our cabin.
Which,
after
by
this
the way,
yes.
When Tally's like, if you want to talk privately.
Yeah. I was
like, all right, we're being forward, huh? All right.
Tally. I'm just like, is it time?
I mean, I imagine if you have an existing relationship with Tally at this point, it is an opportunity for that. Yeah. But otherwise, it is a very good friend conversation.
It is.
It's funny though, talking to her when you're talking to her inside the conference room before we get to the next part. Shepard and Tally are standing very close. And I think it's my quarantine brain, but I looked at them and went, "You are way too close to each other."
6 feet apart.
But yeah, you get to call her up to your room, and she like pretty much has a complete panic attack. She's very much feels unfit because her father's Geth research brought them here, and now they're in this bad place, and she feels like the Quarians are going to blame her because it was her father's research that led them to the conclusions that they might be able to win a battle in the first place.
One of the things I love about this conversation is that it's Tally being very vulnerable with you. And as Sam mentioned before, you get a peek into her imposter syndrome. And she's like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And like, I'm just making it up. And, so are they.
Yeah.
You're fine, Tally. And she asks herself, what would Shepard do?
I was like, and it's a very sweet moment. And my Shepard's just like, reaffirms her and goes, "Oh, and thanks," for thinking that way. Like, it's clear that they have a mentor-mentee, but also very tight-knit friend relationship that's really great. It's just really interesting to see because I see a lot of myself in Tali, especially when she's flailing about feeling like she has an experience. But like in that moment, I wanted the option as Shepard to be like, "Joke's on you. I never know what I'm doing.
Right?
But I'll still figure it out."
Like, same though. But here we are.
Yeah.
Fighting a war. It'll be fine. Right?
Yeah. It's like
you tell me it'll be fine, and then I'll tell you it'll be fine.
It's like when Garrus earlier in the season was talking about how he was the foremost Reaper expert, and you pretty much go, "Really? What's that like?" He's like, "I don't know, but I am, I guess." It's not untrue. I have more experience than other Turian with Reapers. And this is kind of an extension of that. It's like, yeah, you're the expert, because your dad was the expert, and no one else has a clue.
Yeah.
I really, I liked the, just as far as the, the friendship and encouragement moment. I really liked the line where Tally's talking about herself, and she's doing like, she's quoting people talking about her. She's like, they'll say that blah blah blah. She's like, they'll say the Admiral's daughter, and Shepard interrupts her. Says the Admiral.
Yeah.
And it's just a good moment. It's like, we all need friends like this. Like, this is a good relationship.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, but it's just, it was a good moment of catching someone using unfair and unencouraging words about themselves and correcting that language. And I appreciated that moment a lot. Which is funny, because it's Shepard, and so you're like, yeah, go me.
It gave me the same euphoria as, like, correcting someone when they use when they dead name a friend, or when they use the wrong pronouns, or, like, when someone does it for you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yes, support.
Or it's like
so
on Twitter when like I have friends who are like, "Oh, I'm talentless," and I'm like, "You spelled very talented wrong. I'm sorry. You should fix that." That it has that kind of energy.
Yeah. The energy of just making sure people use, like, it acknowledges the importance of the words we use to talk about ourselves, and it was a good moment.
Yeah, totally. Alrighty. I think that's a wrap on this very short mission that we still managed to talk plenty about. All right, so okay. MJ, why don't you start us off in Fandom Corner?
So first, I want to show you guys. My husband, for Valentine's Day, got me a Tally notebook from Haunt Your House. It's very appropriate given the mission that we're talking about today. He gave it to me yesterday. We both originally thought it was an art print because it just looks so nice and so clean, but it's a notebook. Probably I will use it for Mass Effect notes at some point, and then when I fill it up, because there's not that many pages, when I fill it up, I'll probably rip out the back and frame it.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's so cute, and I love it. I love it so much. Last episode, I believe, I talked about the Mako D6. It was either last episode or the episode before that. But for Valentine's Day, my husband got me the Mako D6, and it's cute as heck. It's in my dice bag, so I can't really get it out for you right now so I can show you guys. But I just wanted...
We did have a link to that on the previous episode about Haunt Your House, so you can definitely go check out Haunt Your House's stuff.
Yes.
Also, I think if you Google Haunt Your House, you can find it pretty easily.
Yes. So the notebook was from Haunt Your House. I've talked about their pins a lot. I love their pins. They have a really cute Shepard the Riveter pin going up. Mm-hmm. It's really adorable. I love Haunt Your House, and if anybody could let Haunt Your House know that I love them, so maybe they'll send me coupons, that'd be great. The dice was from Nexus Outpost, and it's really cute. Yes. It has a great color. The Mako is really well defined, so I highly recommend it. They also have a Tally set. It was just like everything was coming up Tally today. Because I went to look at the Mako dice, and they had a set with Tally's drone, Chiquita Voss Paws. Mm-hmm. And it's in this gorgeous purple with blue markings on it. It's really lovely. So if you need some D6 for, I don't know, John, what's a spell that uses a lot of D6? Fireball. So if you need a lot of D6s for Fireball, check out Nexus Outpost, because they have some really cute Mass Effect themed ones. They also have Reaper ones that are black and white, and I kind of wish that the dice themselves were black and the markings were white or red. I just feel like I dropped the ball a little bit there on design, but they're still really cute.
Yeah, definitely go check them out. They're really awesome. And I'll include a link to Nexus Outpost in the show notes.
Yeah.
I had a Pathfinder Grenadier that rolled a bunch of D6s with his bombs, and if we picked that campaign back up, I was like, I need to get some cool D6s. Well,
here you go.
This is a good place to get them. They're really adorable.
All right, before we wrap up Fandom Corner, we are going to have Sam play the game we played with Adam, where Sam is going to open the Tumblr list that we linked in the last show, pick a Mass Effect character from the list. Before looking at the questions, just think of a character you want to pick, and then we will answer that question.
Okay, I feel like we got to do Tally.
All right, we can do Tally. If I can find her on the list. There she is. Did we do Tally last time? I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
Anyway, the question is, what are your hobbies? Sam, please tell us about your hobbies.
All right. Well, I guess we kind of covered this a little bit, but especially over quarantine, figuring out how to best do virtual board games and stuff has been what I've been spending a lot of time on. We've been playing a lot of Tabletop Simulator. I am running a Pathfinder campaign that we just had our session 0 for, so that's going to take up a lot of my time. I've also this isn't for the audio people, you can't see it, but I've got a sewing machine behind me. I like to sew. I've been I do some cosplays every now and then. I've been making a big pile of face masks right now. Because I got a bunch of cool fabric. I have this fabric with avocados on it.
That's
that
cute.
is very cute.
I love that.
So I'm making a bunch of face masks. So yeah, board game sewing. When the world hadn't ended, me and a friend were kind of developing a bunch of convention panels that we were doing, and so doing that was becoming a hobby, and now that's on pause. But that's what I get up to.
What's your favorite cosplay that you've done?
Oh, gosh. We did a Food Wars group that was a lot of fun. If anyone knows the anime Food Wars, we had several of us, and we did a big group of it. And for it being one of my favorites, it's been a while, and I actually forgot the character's name. But I was the seafood guy. And that was a lot of fun. So it's a mix up because I did that cosplay. That was a lot of fun. I also cosplayed Pauline from Super Mario Odyssey, and that was also a lot of fun.
Amazing.
So those were both very fun costumes.
Matt, how about you? What are your hobbies? And you can't say podcasting.
Well, podcasting isn't a hobby. It was. Now it's a job. I don't really have hobby. I mean, I guess playing video games is a hobby, but I do a lot of it for content, whatever that fucking means anymore. I collect things. We talked about this last episode too, because we asked what you collect. Right. But like, I love my Funko Pops. I just got a Squirtle Funko Pop the other day for Valentine's Day. It is very cute. Although someone said that all Funko Pop Pokemon look like Dittos because they have big black beady eyes, and I went, "You've ruined them for me, and I hate you."
I love it. That is my new headcanon.
I was like, does that ruin it or does that make it better?
It makes it better for me.
But yeah, I mean, my biggest hobby lately has been video games. I've been trying to play video games to unwind. I've been replaying the Arkham series because in 2022, we're getting a Suicide Squad game based in the Arkham universe. Fun fact, all of those games have aged really well, and Arkham Origins wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. It was a perfectly good game. And I think that the voice actors who stepped in for Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy for that one did a very good job with those iconic characters. I'm playing Arkham Knight currently on my PS4, and it is very pretty. Like, it was already a pretty game, but it looks good on the PS5. And I don't even know if it's upscaling anything. I imagine it's at least running at 60 frames per second, which it probably didn't before. But yeah, so that's gaming has become a hobby again because I'm not trying to commodify all of it anymore, which is nice. He says, having posted on Twitter a lot about the games he's been playing.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
What about you, MJ? What are your hobbies these days?
Well, I, as most people know, knit and crochet a lot. I just finished knitting a sweater for a mutual friend between Matt and myself for her birthday, my best friend Anastasia. I made her very own Weasley sweater made by a non-binary person, so take that, JK Rowling.
You mean my best friend Anastasia?
Sir, I don't have time to come to Brooklyn to fight you, but if you make this a thing, I will come to Brooklyn to fight you.
I know.
I will make the time. I will call my boss and be like, look, I'm sorry, I have to drive into Brooklyn and I have to fight this dude. But I will be in the city, and that means that if you need me to do any on-site visits, I can. So it's really a win-win.
Right. You were saying.
I talk like Anastasia's gonna listen to this and be impressed.
Yeah, when she's definitely never gonna listen to this.
She's never gonna listen to this. Other things I do for hobbies, I collect books that I will eventually read when I'm no longer depressed. One day I'll read again. Also, I write. And I have a little ukulele that I'm struggling to learn.
At least you're trying.
Trying.
I believe in you.
Someone has to, because it's not me.
Well, I think that we'll stick to one question this time. But if this is actually, here's something for the listener. If you'd like this to become a regular segment with our guests, please let us know. Write us an email. Comment on social. Let us know, because it is fun. We'll get repeats eventually, but it's a fun conversation piece. So let us know what you think of it. I guess we'll outro now and wrap this thing up.
Hey.
Wrap this puppy up. Hey. I'm very excited for our next episode. We will be doing the Priority Geth Dreadnought. Who knew? We're going to the Geth Dreadnought? And our guest is actually the incredible Kate Sanchez. I've met Kate through the wonderful folks at SDGC. She is one of the masterminds behind the website But Why Though, and many podcasts on that website. She is incredibly awesome human who I'm very excited to have on the show. But yeah, so Kate will be joining us on the next episode, so tune in for that. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a good time.
Feel free to tell folks where they can find you on the internet if you want to be found.
Yes, I don't have, like I said, I don't have a huge online presence. Now that we talked about it, I probably should have a cosplay page, but I don't. I tweet at Skip Sandwich. It's just the word skip and the word sandwich together. Instagram is the same name. Otherwise, that's mostly where I am online.
Awesome.
And that's about all I got for promotion. We, as I said, we were doing convention panels, and we had a website idea going, and that's kind of on hold. So maybe next time I'll have something to plug. But...
Sure. Well, we'll have to bring you back for Andromeda, I guess, so you can plug all that.
Yeah.
If you like what you heard here, please follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Facebook.com/ReignitePod. Or you can send us an email. As Stormageddon told you earlier, you can find us at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain POV Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. We've had a bunch of shows join the network very recently. We're very excited for those new shows. Should definitely go check them out. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server where you can join in the conversation about this podcast and a bunch of others. Yes, we have a spoiler page. Yes, we have a Andromeda page that I can't check that you can feel free to have a conversation with MJ about until I get to play it.
And you can help me put together the survey for guessing Matt's choices in Andromeda. And whoever earns the most points will get a prize. What will that prize be? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm just really excited.
Yeah, we know. We also have a bunch of other stuff that we do as well.
This is your reminder that my husband is kind enough to let me use his P.O. box. So if you want to send us letters or cards or, I don't know, anything from Fandom Corner because you like me to have pretty things, please send...
Or me.
Yeah, I mean, if you want Matt to have something, I can send it to him too, I guess. But you can send that to P.O. Box 4288 in Dunellen, New Jersey, 08812, and I will send you a sticker in return.
Yes, so do that. Why not? Free sticker, right? I am working on a ton of different things. The best place to go to see it all is www.djstormageddon.com. It has my Twitch stream, my merch page, my Patreon, all of the podcasts that I produce, as well as host on. Go there to check it out. And if you want to yell at me on social media, the best place to go is DJ_Stormageddon.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Case Aiken for developing even more amazing t-shirt designs. You can find them through certainpov.com or just directly on the store for Certain POV at Teespring.
Thank you to David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. And finally, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And I'm Sam Perez. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
So, I have a question. Have you ever wanted to get into comics, but you just didn't know where to start? Well, welcome to Comics Quest. I'm JD Martin, and every week I sit down with a guest to talk a comic that I think anybody can pick up and start their comics reading journey. We take a look at psychedelic sci-fi, fantastical action, heart-wrenching love stories, and of course, superheroes. So check us out at certainpov.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.